Hey everyone, welcome back to Locked In. Tonight we're going to talk about the first of our, I guess the second of what we would call our major bowl games. It's going to be played at noon on Saturday, the Peach Bowl down in Atlanta, and this is. I don't remember seeing either of these teams in the Peach Bowl. It seems like an odd pairing, but it could be an interesting pairing at the same time. We're going to see Ole Miss and Penn State. I think coming into the game, what is it? Penn State is number 10, is that right? And Ole Miss is 11, I
Yes.
believe. So this is a good, solid, non-playoff bowl game that's really featuring two teams that I think this year who have just been just beyond the playoff conversation. Uh, there are a lot of things that we can't really predict about this game. And I think that that's actually indicative of what the spread is right now, 3.5, 4 points, which is, a pretty tight spread. There are questions, with both teams, especially on Penn State's side. They're going to be playing without their defensive coordinator from this season, Manny Diaz, who has taken a head coaching job at Duke. And so they're going to have co-defensive coordinators, which should be interesting to watch, see how they handle that. If there's communication errors, if there are breakdowns, who knows? But it's going to be just as interesting because when that much of a change is introduced on a particular side of a ball for an opponent, um, the opposite team is going to have trouble figuring out what's happening. And I think if you ask Lane Kiffin right now, he'd say, "I don't really like this. I don't know what to expect." And honestly, I don't know that anybody knows what to expect out of this game. So, uh, either one of you, Chance, Rev, could you throw us something out there that's just basically just a bone to pick? It's something we could learn something about Penn State and Ole Miss, and maybe what we can expect in this Peach Bowl tomorrow.
Go ahead, Chance.
Well, what we should expect is to see a game managing Penn State team come out and play solid football, just fundamental robotic football that you're taught and drilled into your head about how to do things, keep the ball safe, control the clock, control the field position, do the things you have to do to win the game. Where on the other side, we'll see Ole Miss come out with Lane Kiffin, who doesn't really put as much stock into his defense, but wants to go out on offense and be flashy and try to make big plays happen and scheme them big plays up. And it'll be really interesting considering that Penn State's defense is, in my opinion, allocated on the fact that we're going to stop the pass first, the run comes second, even though they do have a top three run defense in the nation. It's how I see their defense working.
Have anything to add?
I'm interested to see how the fronts play for both sides. So Ole Miss does not have a very good defense. They're in the lower half of the SEC, and if you look at total defense across college football, I believe they're probably like 45th. I mean they're in a low number considering their ranking. What they do have going for them this year is a pass rush. There have been multiple times where I've heard their defense get praise, which I didn't really think they deserved, but they got that praise because they were able to get to the quarterback. And then in turn, looking at Penn State and their defense, a similar thing that they do a very good job about getting to the quarterback. And I mean, while there have been moments in big games where they have not done as well against the run, they have one of the top, if not the top run defense in general. And they do play in what a lot of people would call a weaker Big Ten as far as offense goes. So that does assist in those stats. But I'm very intrigued about how the fronts are going to play, especially with both teams have their best defensive player or their best pass rusher out of the game. So for Penn State, that is Chop Robinson. He had a little bit of an injury bug this season, but he still had 4 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. He's projected to be a first-round pick. He is not playing in the game, so obviously you're going to have a younger guy in there for him, and he was a disruptor at the very least. Even if he wasn't making stat-worthy plays, he was disrupting opposing offenses. And on the flip side, with Ole Miss's front, they're missing Cedric Johnson, And the word that I've heard and that I've seen written about a couple different times here is that Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss defense, they did not expect him to be sitting out. They thought that they'd have him for this game, and instead he opted out. And he had 5.5 sacks this year and a forced fumble. He led the defensive line when it came to getting to the quarterback. So both teams are without their best pass rusher, or what is projected to be their best pass rusher. So there's going to have to be some guys step up for them in that regard. I think that works in favor for Penn State a little bit better because Ole Miss is going to want to throw the ball, and with the better pass rush that both teams have, but the kind of offenses they're going against, I think Penn State's pass rush is going to be a more deciding factor in this game versus Ole Miss pass rush because Penn State's not going to be throwing the ball over the yard.
Well, with that being said, you want to get into the film and explain it more in depth?
You want to take this? I've got it on for you.
Yeah.
Tell me. Okay.
So what we're going to see first is the pass rush that we're going to see Penn State like to do a lot too, which is just 4 down linemen, and what they like to do with their D line is cross stunt, which is just where one lineman goes one way, another goes another way, crosses a lineman, gets them together, and one should be free while the other's getting blocked by 2 people. And Penn State does it a lot. And we'll see what happens when Georgia, who has very good pass rushers, about like Penn State's pass rushers, if I'm being honest. They're very similar defenses, which is why I picked this game for our film. We'll see what happens to Ole Miss's line when they do something that Penn State will do. And you just see the cross come, and right there, Jalen Walker goes in. The big difference is that Dart is a very good quarterback. He has legs on him, and he's very mobile. There's no real outside linebacker. I think Raywin Wilson gets sucked in inside, and CJ goes out with the running back. Raywin's all the way on the other side of the field. So there's nobody over here in this grass. So Dart just takes it for what he can and gets first down with it. And if we see Penn State rush like they usually do, we could tend to see Jackson Dart have a few runs like this, which will help them out.
So one of the first things we can say to expect is that Dart is the kind of quarterback that can take advantage of Penn State's tendency to rush the passer, especially with, an extra rusher coming at him. So look for him to be able to create opportunities with his feet, whether in the ground game or in the air.
Something else about this play, they set up, pass rush comes in, Dart does a really good job of recognizing it, getting to space and getting yardage. So right after this play where Dart makes Georgia hurt with his legs and gets a first down, they then have a new play call. I'll let Chance break this whole play down, but I want to point out the sequence of this. The play before the one you're about to watch here, Dart uses his legs to hurt Georgia. Now there's a play call that could include his legs to hurt Georgia, and Georgia is now accounting for that. And Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin with his play calling makes them pay for worrying about the quarterback run. Chance, go ahead.
Yeah, what you'll see here is, I know the first part's cut off, but you'll see this tight end right here. He's coming in motion, and he'll be running a wheel. Then you'll see this inside receiver run up the seams to the middle of the field. You'll see this outside receiver run his vertical route, and then you'll see this running back in the back. You'll see him get a little action here. This read play on this unblocked linebacker out here. I'll circle him. It's Jalen Walker. He's going to be unblocked coming in. So Jackson Dart's going to have his eyes on him while letting the running back go through. He's going to read him depending on what Jalen does. He's going to give it, or he's going to run, or he's going to pass. It's an RPO, simple. So you'll see the running back come out here and just do a swing pass. And if you would, Rev, roll it. Say you'll see Jackson Dart just make the right read here. And I mean, for what it's worth, not every quarterback can make the right read. And Jackson Dart's one of those quarterbacks that he can. Say, you can see it even better right here. See the receivers doing their verticals. You'll see that tight end doing his wheel, and then you'll see that running back doing his swing, and you'll see Raymond Wilson right here having to decide. This is the moment. You can see it in his body language. He knows that if he doesn't go with this tight end, then that running back is going to be wide open. And if he goes with the running back, tight end's going to be open. But he has to make a decision, split second. He chooses to go down and just has that one little step, that one little stutter. Jackson Dart sees it, and Jackson Dart makes the throw where it's supposed to go, right over Raymond Wilson's head. It's a really good sequence.
What I add to this, on that previous play, it doesn't make a difference if we roll back or not. I don't know that if I will go with you on this being like a true play action thing. I mean, it's a fake. But that guard, what I liked about it was this is just a typical power read look, and the guard essentially just posts up on that outside rusher. So I mean, this is a pass all the way, but boy, they make it look like your typical power read run. So I mean, this is some high level business.
If you go a second further, yeah, stop right there. If he wanted to, Dart could just take it right up here and be fine. I mean,
yeah, he really could.
You got CJ Allen right here, and you'll see him start to go down with the running back in a second, but he is frozen. I mean, he don't know what's going on. He's a young freshman. I mean, I'm gonna say Penn State's linebackers are gonna be more experienced. They always have great linebackers, but I mean, you got 4 routes being ran to one side, and you only have 1, 2, 3 people. So there's no way possible to defend that. And I feel like we're going to see a lot of that with Penn State. Just Lane Kiffin scheming things up and making it hard to defend.
And the other thing,
best play concepts I've seen. Yeah,
I love it. I mean, the other thing too is number 5 here. Whether or not the offense has dictated what this play is going to be or not, he does not know that. So. And again, this is kind of what I brought up earlier. The play before, Jackson Dart ran on them for a first down, and 5 he has that in his head. So right now, there is nobody else over here in this flat area. You got the corner bailing, you got the safety playing 10 yards deep, and he's going to be on this vertical cross in his face. So number 5 has the tight end running around him. He knows that guy is coming across and probably releasing. He sees a running back coming out of the backfield. And on top of all of that, there is still a chance of a quarterback run here. And not only does Dart have an opportunity to maybe run up inside, but he also can just bubble this out. He can extend this play, and he can just wait to see what number 5 does and just take the other option. And I think that's what this play is. I mean, whether or not it was dictated, in the play call, this play can go multiple ways. And as far as, from a defensive perspective, it puts you in some major conflict. And 5 does not have a way to make this play work for him. I mean, he is screwed to me either way he goes. And I think that's genius with this play call. So I just absolutely love it. Continue the
Yeah,
film.
I was saying he drops it in there. Like, that's even a good pass. So on this one, we're gonna get the little misdirection here is what we talked about, Rev. Said you're going to see 2 steps right here and 2 more steps from these linebackers. And right after this, you're going to see the whole line just doing a zone, an inside zone run top blocking scheme where they just take their steps left and block. And you're going to see Judkins just go on outside. And these linebackers, they just see that the little steps right there, and they're screwed. You take one wrong step, and you see how far it'll get you screwed in football, especially playing linebacker. So I think Judkins takes it all the way in for a touchdown. So you just take that one wrong step because you see somebody take a step, it can get you really screwed, and that's why Ole Miss's offense is just so great.
Juggins is also really good at breaking out of tackles. Like you see him emerge from a lot of piles. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see how Penn State deals with him tomorrow.
Yeah, I would say Georgia's not a slouch when it comes to defense.
No,
But I mean, it's you got all these guys trying to make arm tackles, and Judkins just he doesn't really let arm tackles phase him. He has them high leg. He runs with his legs high, like high knees almost, where you're not really going to be touching anything when you go low. I mean, you could just see them there. They just all miss pretty much, except for one dude on his waist.
The other thing with this, and this is not necessarily for the Penn State Ole Miss game, but this is just watching tape and seeing this. A lot of people don't realize how big a difference one step can make when you are playing defense and offense. But if you watch these linebackers, they're good linebackers. They're starting at the University of Georgia. They are good linebackers, and yet they make one or two false steps inside, and you see right here, right from this pause, they are screwed. They cannot get to the outside. They already have committed one extra step too far into the insides part of the field. And this play, I mean, the running back is great. He hits the outside, and they're too far away to make a play. That's the difference between one wrong step.
That's a touchdown. Saying I don't think we'll see many touchdowns in the game. Like, I'm just gonna be honest. I think it'll be a low scoring, tough game, about like the Missouri and Ohio State game that we saw. So it should be a pretty close game. So when touchdowns come, I think that's gonna be something special. Say this one right here. This one, Jackson Dart is just gonna show off his arm talent, and I mean he has it. I mean, by God, he has it. Say you got 5 rushers in his face, and the line even holds up. I mean, we want to talk about Penn State rushing 4 with their crossers. It's like we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys rushing, and a spy for Dart. Say you got 6 guys committed because you want to stop the pass and you think the Dart might run the ball. It's like you're going to get Penn State on that as well because they play a lot like Georgia. And when you're in man coverage, you have to be right on your man. And if you aren't, you're going to get beat by Jackson Dart. So that's about it we saw from Ole Miss though. So it's nothing too bad to look at. Say they're not particularly bad anywhere. Say they're pretty just mediocre in my opinion. They're not great or exceptional anywhere. I think that their key will be being able to run the ball against Penn State. If they can run the ball, they should be able to succeed against Penn State. And whatever Kitchen schemes up, he better have 2 or 3 good shot plays that he knows going to get him some good yards or and maybe a touchdown because he's going to need it.
So leaving Ole Miss, what can we expect from Penn State?
I expect Penn State to rush Dart, and I expect them to start keying in on Dart running the ball, and I think it gets them in trouble with the run game. Honestly,
Guys, what do we have here? This is a good looking defensive structure, honestly.
yeah. Here we have Penn State showing off their blitz that we just went over. Georgia doing. Say think 20 backs off here, but you'll see their 4-man, I think, blitz with their cross. No, 20 doesn't back off. They're the one in the middle does, but you'll see 20 cross with this lineman, and they sure get to JJ. That's for sure. If you want to roll it, Rev. And I think we'll see that with Dart. It's just can Dart escape or not? That's going to be the big question.
I love this stunt. It's one of you'll see a lot of times where the guy on the outside will cross over and the guy on the inside is supposed to take the outside. Roll, a log. People call it different things when they stunt it. One thing I will mention is the danger of this is if the inside guy cannot get outside. And right here, I mean, he gets held up by two guys. So I mean, he takes care of the tackle, but there is nobody else for outside contain. And that's kind of the danger of this stunt, this kind of blitz when you're looking at it, because if McCarthy does get caught, and I mean, a lot of that is great pursuit by 33 and then 11 also trying to cut him off. They had a good angle. But there are times that Penn State will get caught on the edge trying to do, good looking little stunts. But when certain players don't get to the spot they need to get to, I mean, right here on this pause, it looks like he has some room to run and to do things. Now he's looking downfield. He's not committing to the run. He's trying to find a place to throw the ball. So that's slowing him down a little bit as he's being pursued. And that allows 33 to catch him. And great pursuit again by Penn State. But there are times that I think their outside will be exposed. And I think we have a play later on where we're going to see that. Just something to take note of. Obviously, Manny Diaz will not be calling this game, so we don't know what kind of blitzes and stunts are going to be throwing at Ole Miss. And I'm actually very curious to see if they play more of a base, if they get really aggressive. Manny Diaz does a lot of things. I think he serves very good as defensive coordinator, and it will be very interesting to see the communication between two defensive coordinators. The guy calling the plays is going to be in the box for this game, and the guy signaling is going to be on the field. So there's obviously, it takes a little bit of time to get those calls to on the field guys, and it'll be interesting to see how they decide to call the game.
I was saying,
One thing I'd point out.
Yeah, go ahead, Doc.
One thing I'd point out here before you go on Chance. What McCarthy does right here, just with his feet, with his eyes still downfield before he really takes off, that's not going to happen with Dart.
Right.
I just don't believe that they catch Dart right here. I mean, maybe they do. I don't think 33 runs Dart down.
Also, we just saw it with Georgia. Georgia's also big, fast, athletic. Dart. You can't tell me Dart's not faster than JJ McCarthy. Dart runs a lot more, and he's very fast and he's very athletic, and he doesn't look to pass. He looks to run when he gets in situations like this, and he can do it well. So we just saw what he did to Georgia.
It's such a big deal when a quarterback has a nimble escape move to get out of the pocket, and McCarthy, it took him half a second to get out of his feet before he could run. I just don't think that's going to be as available tomorrow.
And the other thing too is he's very indecisive here with what he wants to do. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't know that can be sometimes a combination of, hesitancy with himself, but also coaching, trying to tell him to always look downfield. There are times where looking downfield is not an option anymore. This is a broken play. You got guys in your face. They had a really good rush off on you. And if you recognize that they have exposed their edge to you, you should tuck that ball and you should run. And I think the difference that we're talking about here, Dart, if he sees that edge, just like we watched in that previous play with him in the Georgia film, he saw it and he took it. There was no hesitation. So I think if you see something similar like this, like we're talking about here, even if he's not faster than McCarthy, which I believe he is, but even if he isn't, he makes a decision quick enough where he's going to get yards rather than being indecisive with the ball and getting run down.
And something that goes back to what we've talked, this has been a persistent theme, it seems like. Look at the down and distance and look at the blue line of scrimmage. This is a colossal loss that he's fixing to take. And I think one of the things that impresses me about Dart, he's situationally aware. And I think that changes this play a lot. If McCarthy is thinking, I need to get back to the line of scrimmage instead of trying to look for a receiver downfield, I think that changes things right here. And I'm going to go so far as to say again, I don't think that this opportunity is going to be there for the Penn State defense with Dart if he winds up in the same scenario.
Agreed.
So I do think they'll get their allotted sacks that they should get. I just think that Dart's going to make them pay a number of times when they do it.
It's the risk you run when you do things like that. And there are going to be times that you are going to make big plays on defense, and there will also be times that you will get burnt because you missed.
Yeah, which is why I think it's a very winnable game for Ole Miss if they just do what they need to do to win.
Now Ole Miss on offense. Penn State on offense.
What do we have from here?
I'm pretty sure this is a a good play by Drew Hour where he shows his mobility right here. You'll see a 5-man blitz from Michigan. I think one dude gets through and almost takes Drew Hour's head off. Oh, wait, no. Wrong play. So this is just Drew Hour making a good throw across the middle, which I don't know if we've talked about it yet in this video, but Drew Hour and Penn State likes to run things in the middle. If you would give me a freeze frame before he throws it, Rev. I'll say right there will work. Say if you can look at this, you have 1, 2, 3, and there's another one right here. There's 4 routes being ran to the middle of the field. It's very very rare to see that. A lot of quarterbacks don't like throwing to the middle of the field, and a lot of receivers don't like catching balls in the middle of the field. Particularly wise because there's usually defenders in the middle of the field, and that will either cause you to throw an interception or either get your wide receiver killed. But Drew Hour loves it. He's good at it, but them outside throws he's just not nearly as good at. So you'll see multiple people open in the middle of the field here against Michigan, and that's what he's good at doing. And I expect to see that against Ole Miss, throwing across the middle of the field.
And number 1 here, he has him early and hits the tight end instead. I guess that might be the H-back, but so talking about his ability to throw in the middle of the field and his inability to throw the outside routes, we saw that a lot in the Ohio State game. Penn State, Ohio State, big game every year. Penn State's always, that number 3 team in the Big Ten, trying to get over the hump, trying to beat a good Ohio State team with a very good defense. And as we talked previously in the Missouri-Ohio State preview, Ohio State has one of, if not the best defensive coordinator in the country. And he knows what his opposing quarterbacks he will be facing. He knows what they like and what they don't like. And he did his film watching, and he recognized that Drew here does not like the outside throws, and he loves the inside stuff. He loves the middle of the field stuff. So Ohio State, which we don't have a clip of it right now, but Ohio State took away the run because Penn State likes to run the football, and they also took away the middle of the field throws, and they forced Drew into throwing the outside routes one-on-one. They manned up the outside guys, and they said, you have to beat us with your arm on the outside. And if you watch that game, Drew Aller could not do it. He could not make the correct throws to be able to beat Ohio State and get over that hump. And Ohio State has a very elite defense, way better than the Ole Miss defense that we'll see. So that, to me, is a storyline in this game. How does Ole Miss defense, what do they decide to do? Do they decide to play their normal game? Do they decide to take away certain things from Penn State? Where are they going to allocate more of their, another man? Are they going to stack the box trying to stop the run? I'm very interested to see how they play their defense here, because if they take away Drew Aller's comfort zone with the middle of the field throws, Ole Miss has a very good shot at winning this game.
And
I would definitely.
Go ahead.
I would definitely take this. You got to get hands on that tight end, because that's what he is. He is a tight end here. He's not an H, because they're in a tight end formation here with the tight end to the right hand side of the offensive line. Watch him come off. I mean, he's unscathed really, and I think that Aller strikes me as the kind of guy that tight end is a security blanket for him. See, look at that. Completely a free release. I don't think you can do that if you're Ole Miss, because this guy's going to cause you problems. And he's the kind of guy who will usually, when tight ends, at least in my opinion, when tight ends catch the ball in big time college football, it's rare and it hurts. And this is the kind of guy who's probably good for about 2 25-yard catches a game, and you can't let that happen if you're Ole Miss. To me, that is Penn State's dart getting loose on third down. If you let that tight end get deep on a third down play, that is absolute poison, and it will keep Penn State chugging down the field.
Chance, I think this is the play you were talking about.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the one where Aller shows his elusivity, his athleticism. So you get a 4-man rush here. One just breaks through. Aller makes a good slip right here. Gets the first down, takes a slide. I mean, it's a good athletic play right there. I mean, nothing.
Yeah, it is.
Nothing you can say bad about that. I mean, he realizes that he's got pressure, and he takes off. He doesn't sit there and look downfield and wait. He takes off. I was saying one thing about Ole Miss's defense is they really haven't saw an offense like Penn State. That's why we don't really have any film of Ole Miss's defense. They haven't played anybody like Penn State, and that's because Penn State and the Big Ten in general just all play different. They play to control the game and to control the clock. They're not one of these teams that wants to pass 40 times a game. They're one of these teams that's like to run the ball 40 to 50 times a game and throw 10. And they don't care if they have 60 yards passing. They want time of possession and they want field position. So something like that is just huge. Say here, what we have is Donovan Edwards just make a cut off of these two linebackers taking the wrong step and just going outside. Once he goes outside, as one man to beat. Say you'll see it. So we showed you Ole Miss running outside. Say similar to this. Say this end right here just crashes in. The linebacker takes the wrong step and he's gone because there's no outside contain. So you take one wrong step, as we mentioned earlier, it's over. And I don't care if you're Georgia's linebackers. I don't care if you're Penn State's linebackers. You have to take the right step.
One wrong step will kill you as a linebacker. Linebackers who are watching this, if that's a position you play, you got to be very careful about where you're stepping, because if you overcommit just one extra step, you are very liable to get burnt like this. We saw Georgia do it. Now we see Penn State do it. This is kind of what I was alluding to earlier about Penn State sometimes having a very soft edge. I don't really understand this from their edge player. I mean, he just attacks that outside guy just straight on, and I'm not sure why. To me, if that guy just gets outside, if he gets a little bit outside of that blocker, then this play has to go back inside, because I mean he stops him from being able to bubble that outside, and that's where the meat of your defense is. I mean, and in this setup, Penn State kind of puts himself in a precarious situation here. There is nobody else left on the outside. I mean, you have a safety who's 10 yards down the field going to try and make a play in the open field against a very good running back. And Ole Miss has a good running back that can also make them pay for things like this. We're not going to see Ole Miss run this exact play. This will more likely be a toss from Ole Miss in a similar setup, but they'll hit a toss on the outside. And if Penn State does not make sure that they take a hard edge and they have that outside contained, you could see something like this really burning Penn State one or two times.
And I mean, it burns you once or twice. That's 50, 60 yards. And that's a good chunk of change right there. And that's not even a pass play. Is anything you like to add to that, Walk?
Yeah, one of the things that I want to say is that what Rev said about the end over there. First of all, there is not a soul outside of him.
Mm-mm.
And you have to know that.
Yep.
Whatever that guy's regular position is, he is the end right here. I don't like that myself, because you're asking somebody who might not be an end to play a completely unique position. And so it seems like that the philosophy that a lot of teams are using now is they're going, I mean, it's a spill idea. At least I would call it a spill idea, that you were going to jam that that lineman. I mean, because if you look at it already, I mean, you've got what are there two tight ends really? I mean, I guess wings, whatever you want to call them, on that side just to extend the running surface out.
Mm-hmm.
When they jam down, it's almost like there is this over assumption, and you saw it with those Georgia linebackers. You see it with these linebackers here. You even see it with that guy on the end of the Penn State defensive line. There is an over assumption that the back is running from B gap to B gap. And so often you see with these running backs, they can make a good cut and get outside, and you're just begging them to hit all that grass over there to the top of the screen. And I don't know why that a structure like this is playing out the way that it is, because to me, it looks like, I remember watching this. I remember watching this live and thinking, They are simply packing you inside so they can get outside. Yet Penn State doesn't respond to that at all. It's as if they think this is going to be a 100% A gap dive, and and the toughest guy, low man's going to win. That's not what's going to happen at all. Yet they sell out for it, and I don't understand that. Maybe it's just me, but it makes no sense.
Alignment wise, I know I just look at this freeze rate here, and they're already screwed when it comes to their alignment. I mean, their outside player is almost head up. I mean, he's on the outside shade of this wing, tight end, whatever you want to call him. And he's like, I mean, he's a DB. He doesn't play
Right.
this. He doesn't play the edge like this. This is not his role. I mean, I don't know in this set because obviously, college, you're going to see a lot more personnel changes, but he's effectively the corner because you don't need one here. And he is just crashing down into the line. Alignment wise, there's just nobody over here to stop the outside run. And it is honestly very baffling. I think it goes back to, and you'll hear me say this many, many times when analyzing college defenses, because I think so many of them make the same mistakes, and people get paid big bucks to continue to make the same mistakes. But they think that they have the speed to stop the outside, and they're way more concerned with the inside. So they do very silly things, whether it's elements of their pass rush, they give their edge away, or if it's just the way that they align before the snap. They are just willing to give the outside away because they think they can cover it with speed on the back end. And as we see here, that is not how things work. And I see this over and over every single season, every single game, not every single game, but most games. You will see defenses make the same mistakes over and over again. And it's almost as if, they watch film and they're blinded to that because that is what college football is now. That's just, people have accepted that that's how we're going to play defense. And if they beat us on the edge, they beat us on the edge.
Mm-hmm.
To me, as somebody who looks at the game a little bit differently, and I prefer sound defense, I prefer to make sure that my gaps are accounted for, and I prefer to make sure that my edge is contained because I don't want to get beat in either of those places because that is easily fixable in my opinion. So this is just another situation here that I think if Penn State decides to have any alignment remotely close to this, where they start selling inside more, Ole Miss is going to make them pay. Whether a quarterback run to the outside, a toss. I mean, Ole Miss's running back can put his foot in the ground, make a really good cut and go. We've seen him do that this year. And if they get a look like this, they are bound to pop something.
Yeah, I don't
and
disagree
given
with
that
you.
Michigan performance, that's what I would do if I were Ole Miss. Because Michigan basically stayed in a lot of tight formations and they ran the ball at will. I would see if I could do the same thing. I would see if I could out formation them. I would see if I could trick them into, like you said, trying to over defend the inside and then take the outside. I think if Ole Miss doesn't do it, they're crazy. And knowing that Lane Kiffin is one of the most advanced offensive thinkers that you'll come across, I have no doubt that he's got some stuff lined up that Penn State may well overcommit to.
Yeah, as much as it sounds like we're talking Ole Miss up, I do think that Penn State will come out with the win. I think that Ole Miss has a very good chance if they do the right things that they will win. I just don't have any faith in them to do it. From what we've seen this year, there's good reason to say, hey, Penn State will do what it takes to win. They will play sound football and they will not make mistakes. Drew Howard has one interception all year, and that's with him throwing across the middle of the field. That's pretty impressive. He won't throw it much. They'll run the ball a lot. They'll control the clock. It won't be the most exciting game of football you'll ever see, but it'll be a good game of football. And I'm excited to watch it. I'm excited to see if Ole Miss can pull it off. But I wouldn't be betting any money on this game.
Rev, any final thoughts?
To me, it's a mixed bag. It's all up in the air. That feels somewhat like of a cop-out answer, but you just don't know what you're going to get. And we talked before we started recording how there's always a weird, bigger bowl played in this noon slot where just things happen very strangely. And this feels like that game. to me. And I don't know what we're going to see. I mean, most of the players for each team are coming back for this game. Like there's very few opt-outs. There's a couple question marks. I know that Penn State has 2 DBs that are still on the fence. They have not confirmed whether they're going to play or not, which that could factor in because Penn State's passing defense has been very good this year for the most part. But losing, 2 of your more prominent guys that have seen a lot of field time is obviously going to change a lot when it comes to being able to defend the pass against a very good quarterback. And at the same time, too, we talked about that Ole Miss's path to success is if they can run the ball. If Ole Miss can run the ball, they can win this game. And then against a very good run defense. But I'm very curious to see how Ole Miss runs the ball. I agree with Chance when it comes down to it. If I had to pick, I would pick Penn State just because of the way they play. They don't play flashy. They're not going to win. They're not going to win a big game with the way they play when it comes against their rivals. They're not going to have a quarterback superstar that is just a gamer that goes and wins one for them. That's just not who they are. They play sound football, and they go out there and they say, hey, if you can beat us playing sound football, good for you, but we don't think you can. And that's kind of the Penn State's MO. It has been for a very long time. And I see that happening in the same way where Penn State does enough. They take care of the football. Their defense plays, well, and they play sound, and they're able to do enough to come away with a win here.
I think if Judkins can run for over 100 yards, if Dart can keep them alive on third down, and that defensive front who's still even missing, the one player who'll be absent, they still have produced a lot of sacks, 34 sacks as a team. If they can make Aller put the ball on the ground, I think Ole Miss can win the ball game. Question is, will they make that happen? And I think that's where all 3 of us come down. It seems like that we don't have a lot of faith. We think Ole Miss can play a great game tomorrow, but we don't know if Ole Miss can pull out the win. Are we agreed on that?
Agreed.
Yeah.
So with that being said, tune in tomorrow at 12 o'clock to check out the Peach Bowl from Atlanta, Georgia. Until then, this is Jeremy Locke for Logan Revel and Chance Rollins. Stay locked in.